Hello and a wonderful morning to each and everyone present here. I am Chandrama Chaudhary, your host for the event, and it gives me immense pleasure to welcome all of you to this event of Upstream Ahead under the aegis of Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas and DGH. Well, once Bill Gates had rightly said, Microsoft was built with a vision of a computer at every desk and at every home. We never wavered from that vision. On similar lines, today we talk about a vision. Today we talk about Vision 2050. And today we talk about oil and gas exploration and production towards Vision 2050. The first edition of the Upstream Ahead Summit will see all the key stakeholders talk about the issues, the challenges, the roadblocks with a vision of a smooth way forward. We believe that the country's energy has a lot of scope and there is a lot of scope and opportunity for the E&P sector. On that note, we are going to talk about something very, very important, and may we kindly unveil the event, please. Okay, thank you so much for that. That was our starting of the event. To grace today's occasion, we have some very, very eminent personalities, and I will be very, very happy and very, very glad to introduce them to all of you attending today's session. We have Shri Tarun Kapoor, Secretary MoPNG. He was also in the 1987 batch as an IS officer of the Himachal Cadre. Prior to joining as a secretary MoPNG, Shri Kapoor was servicing as a vice chairman, equivalent to secretary at the Delhi Development Authority. We are waiting for Shri Tarun Kapoor to join in, and while we wait for him to join in, I would also like to welcome Shri Nath, the Joint Secretary MoPNG. He was also from the 1994 Agmat Cadre as an IS officer. He has held the position of Administrator of Union Secretary of Lakshadweep, Chief Executive Officer of Delhi Urban Shelter Improvement Board, and Chief Executive Officer of Chandigarh Housing Board in Chandigarh. We are also waiting for Shri Amarnath to join in. And we have with us today a very, very special and a very, very eminent personality, Shri SCL Das, who is the DG, Directorate General of Hydrocarbonate. Thank you so much for gracing the occasion with us, and we are very, very thrilled that you've decided to embark your presence upon today's session. May I now request Shri SCL Das, to virtually light the lamp lighting, please. Thank you, sir, for being a part of the lamp lighting ceremony. And no occasion starts with a special invocation. And for today's special invocation, I would like to present an orchestra who believes that music speaks the language of peace. Despite the political boundaries that divide the 8 nations of South Asia, there was an urge among the people to coexist in harmony with each other so that their dreams come into reality. And that's how the existence of today's special orchestra came into being, the South Asian Symphony Orchestra. They have musicians from more than 8 countries, and they most recently played at the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris presidential inauguration fanfare. They will today present Maitri Bhajata, penned down by Jadguru Shri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati and performed by Miss Surumukhi Raman, a renowned playback vocalist who has lent her voice for more than 150 films. We welcome you to the stage. The stage is all yours.
Maitri Bhajata Akhilah Jetri Maitri Bhajata Akhilah Jetri Atmavadeva Paranapi Pashyata Atmavadeva Paranapi Pashyata Yuddham Tyajata Spardham Tyajata Yuddham Tyajata Spardham Tyajata Tyajata Pareshu Kramakramayam Tyajata Pareshu Kramakramayam Maitri Bhajata Akhilah Jetri Maitri Bhajata Akhilah Jetri. जननी पृथ्वी कामदुःखास्ते जननी पृथ्वी कामदुःखास्ते जनको देवः सकलदयाळु जनको देवः सकलदयाळु दाम्यतदत्त दयध्वं जनता दाम्यतदत्त दयध्वं जनता श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां.
Wow, that was indeed very beautiful. And I think all of us are refreshed this morning. Thanks, a huge thanks to South Asian Symphony Orchestra. Well, now may I call upon Shri SCL Das to address the gathering, please.
Well, a very good morning to all the dignitaries and industry leaders present here today. My special welcome to Mr. Tarun Kapoor, Secretary of the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, who has led and inspired this entire exercise, Upstream Ahead, the first edition, very aptly called Upstream Ahead, which is essentially the oil and gas exploration and production towards Vision 2050, a very relevant and contextually very important exercise. So he'll be joining and delivering his inaugural address, I'm told, at 10:30. So I have a special welcome, especially welcome him, and also by special thanks on behalf of all of you here, in behalf of the industry, to take these discourses forward, because these discourses are so very important for our business. I would like to welcome all the industry representatives and distinguished speakers from E&P sector who have gathered here. It is a great pleasure indeed to have you here. My special words of appreciation for ONGC, Oil India Limited, Vedanta, Cairn, and HOEC, who and the others supporting organizations who have really pioneered and supported this event. and of course a host of other supporting organizations. I really wish to thank them on my personal behalf and on behalf of the industry for organizing this kind of a first event of this kind. As we are all aware, India is moving very rapidly towards becoming a $5 trillion economy in the next few years. And we are also aware that the demand of energy is really basically bound to grow. And per capita energy consumption in India is going to go up very rapidly to match the growth trajectory, the growth and development trajectory which the country, the economy has charted out for itself. So it is a basic fact, is a kind of a fait accompli that energy consumption per capita is going up. So that is where all of us come in. That is where the oil and gas business has a big stake in the overall growth story of the country, the overall energy growth of the country. Yep. And that is where all of us need to really come together to really be clear about what the vision for the next 3 decades is. You may be wondering, I mean, just a few days back, we had this action plan 2025, and now we have this kind of a very long-term vision, 3-decadal vision, 2020-2050. So what is the connect? So obviously both these are connected. These are two sides of the same growth story for oil and gas sector, of our common shared belief that we have a future which is real and here for us to really capitalize upon, albeit with certain course corrections which are required to align with the global and climatological realities. Those are the adjustments to be made by the oil and gas sector, which, as in the past, is always very resilient and always adaptive, and would again, rise to the occasion and make those adaptive changes. There's no doubt about that. But what is fundamental is that it's a growth story. So we have recently deliberated on a short-term action plan in terms of concrete deliverables in the next 4 to 5 years. And today, because every action plan has to be imbued with a larger vision, the industry as a whole, of which all of us are, even government is a partner with you in this industry. So the government, the oil and gas ecosystem as a whole has to have a very clear roadmap, a path ahead for it. So that is where this discourse becomes very important, because we have to think globally. We have to think in the long term with a long-term perspective. And with that in mind, we really get together to work out deliverables in short packages in 4 to 5 years, the kind of exercise we recently did. So essentially, this is a part of the same continuum, the same effort, with different time frames, with different perspectives, but having a common, basically embedded in the same goal. Today, as you can see, this summit is very well structured. It really tends to focus on all the key aspects which all of you as industry leaders and experts should really be deliberating upon. The themes have been structured very well. And we have a whole lot of very good speakers, very eminent speakers here, who would really contribute to these themes. And at the end of this exercise, we hope to really collate things and put them in a perspective. And then we would have the ministry has, as in all seriousness, really decided upon a committee which would monitor the implementation. This is something which is highly commendable. And of course, industry would be part of this exercise. We will sit with you and see that because this is not just merely talking about a vision and producing a document. It's about moving in a particular direction, which is agreed common path by the industry, all the stakeholders, an agreed kind of a trajectory, which is evolved through this forum and subsequent deliberations. So a very novel feature of this exercise is going to be a monitoring mechanism, which will really measure the progress we are made through the various deliverables which are decided. For instance, there could be several, there is an important session on this enabling, one of the major enablers, which is the policy framework. Now, these things have to move in tune with your expectations and as best as government can itself deliver. So these will be monitored. The things, action points which are agreed upon, they will be monitored in terms of clear deliverables, so that industry has a clear idea what to expect and by what timeline. So similarly, there are other areas which are more to do with the core functioning of the industry, like exploration and other things, other core areas, unconventional energy. So those also deliberations, they are very good experts there. Some very well-known faces of the industry would get together to really deliberate on them. And the takeaways, the actionable points which emerge out of those sessions, they will again be kind of accepted by the entire house as a kind of a common agreed action point. But they will be certainly monitored, and we from the DGH would like to play an active role to see that those expectations are realized within the indicated timeframes as far as possible. So we'll certainly support you, the industry, and work with the government, the ministry, to see that whatever action points are generated, they are we move towards them in the short, medium, and the long time frames, in the appropriate time frames. So that is an important, a very good aspect of the exercise initiated recently, whether it is the Action Plan 2025 or whether it is today's deliberation on a larger theme of Vision 2050 in a longer time frame. We are really trying to look at basically recommendations and action points which are outcome oriented and which are deliverable within a time frame and which are monitored throughout, so that there's a level of accountability placed on them. I'm very happy to see some of the topics are really very, very good and refreshingly very relevant. Particularly the theme, I would like to compliment the organizers for bringing in as in the mainstream discourse of such a vision and the ENP discussions, the issue of gender. This is something probably the ENP industry needs to do a lot more about it, whether at the cultural level or whether at the organizational level, or even whether in terms of at the HR and other aspects of the organizational functioning. But at the socio-cultural level, at the socio-psychological level, and at the organization management level, gender is an issue which certainly needs a far more focused attention, particularly in the context of our country, which has a great tradition of having produced, inspiring and top-rung leaders in all as fields of life, starting from the polity to culture to economics to name what have you. So ENP sector, obviously, I have full faith in the ENP sector that they would also not fall behind, and really this is one area where ENP sector needs to really come up and really show that it's really at par with the other sectors also. So I'm really happy to see that gender is figuring as a theme, and it is something to be encouraged by all of us. All of us believe in this. All institutions represented here, all of them deeply believe in this. So that session is a very welcome session. So this session, so I have a basically full faith that you'll have this next 2 days basically discussions which are not only relevant in terms of the themes, in terms of the context, but they'll be very rich in their content, and there will be some very engaging too. So I really would like to compliment the organizers, Mr. Joydev Lahiri and his team who have been working. I've seen them working very incessantly along with these other team members and for organizing this, and they have put together a good structure. And just as kind of a parting words, let me just kind of a brief, just in very few words, kind of mention those key areas which we see necessary for the growth and sustenance of our industry. Today we are here, the whole reason of the raison d'etre of this kind of exercise is that we as an industry have to consolidate our position. We have to sustain ourselves in the future, definitely in the next 3 decades to come and beyond, but in a more adaptive, in a kind of a more globally relevant fashion. Those are adaptive changes, but the basic fact is we have to consolidate our business, we have to sustain, and we have to grow. How does that growth come about in a world changing at the rate as we have seen as is kind of unprecedented kind of a rate of change in human history? How does that sustainable growth come about? How does that consolidation in the E&P sector would come about? I basically believe that there are 5-6 markers, basically core areas. So one main impetus of growth for our industry, and this is essentially nothing new. I'm saying this is conventional wisdom, but I wish to only just focus for the purpose of highlighting these points. Is purely for the purpose of highlighting some of these points. I'm mentioning this. So the major and foremost impetus of growth comes from resource conversion. The resource conversion must happen. And as we recently discussed, some of you would have participated in that. There's a huge amount of resources in this country identified, but yet to be converted into reserves, which are exploitable, which are recoverable reserves. So it is a very important area, which essentially means and you have a few sessions devoted to that precisely in this session for that same reason. So this exploratory activities must take a new direction and a new energy and a new kind of a pace. So exploratory efforts must get invigorated in using the most high-end tools of exploration API, and they must use big data science and big data analytics, advanced data analytics to do so, and come up with really convert whatever we today believe that we have 12 BTU of discoveries. So basically, they have to really convert more and more resources into recoverable reserves, and these exploratory activities must be stepped up. The second fulcrum of growth for our industry, again, conventionally, but something very fundamental, is again improving the recovery factor. So this is an area which I'm sure we will have very clear inputs over the days to come, and recovery factor in all our existing fields, whether they are in production or not, they must go up by comparison. We must be able to benchmark them with analogous fields globally and focus on more and more effective, technology effective and economically very cost effective methods of enhancing recovery factor, whether it is improving the technology, whether it is through improving the business processes or improving operations, evolving new partnerships. But whatever reserves we already have, their recovery factor needs to be stepped up to at least match, if not surpass, the global levels. So that is very important because there's something in hand. It's just a question. It's just like capital sitting idle. You are not investing it. You got to really get returns on it. You can't have capital sitting idle. It's in very broad terms. It's like that. And thirdly, which all of you, and this particular event today itself is a kind of symbolically a reminder of that. High pace of digitalization, which many sections of the industry, I'm already aware they're taking a lead in that. Some of them have prepared an excellent digitalization plan also. And I'm thankful for those sections of the industry who have really got together to do that. And separately, we'll see that that also goes ahead. But as a general message, certainly technology, faster technology induction, more appropriate technology induction, and digitalization continues to be an overarching theme. And those leaders in the industry who have already kind of had a head start. So I would really urge them to really do more of share their practices and all. We will try to have some separate sessions in which these things can be further articulated. So this is also one of the recurrent themes whenever we talk of a long-term vision. And this is something which it's better that we mainstream this as an agenda in our all future discourses. And fourthly, already in the context of our previous points, innovative business models have to evolve because repeatedly this is being a refrain from the government, and quite rightly so, that our industry has a relatively very narrow base, which is in terms of the dynamics of any industry and from all past historical experiences, it's not a very kind of a structure which is very conducive to a very sustained growth. So we must broaden our base, which essentially means that we need to evolve innovative business models, and we must do it in a way which is distinctly and qualitatively very different and advanced from whatever we've done. There have been efforts. One is not saying, neither the ministry nor we are saying that it has not been done. There have been attempts in the past, but what we need to do is address this issue in a more qualitatively, in a very different fashion, in a significantly very. We have to really work significantly much more than we have so far done, and the results must be there to see. It's not really the efforts made, but really the outcome. So we must really, in the next few years, certainly, and in the context of the vision, we must move eventually to a goal where the business, the way the business models, various business models which are currently in vogue in the country. We already have advanced contract management system, but the business models also need to keep pace, and they must evolve. So that is a particular goal we are working. We have to all work towards, and all our future discourses must address this. We must have views, properly formulated views, to see the way forward. Industry can do it on its own. If there are certain enablers required by the government, certainly government would be very keen to do it, because this is certainly high in the agenda of the industry, and we as government we share this agenda. We'd like to share this agenda with the largest stakeholder in the industry. One is not talking only about the industry players, but also the potential players who could become a part of the industry base. We are talking of the industrial base. And finally, we have to focus on more efficient processes, where certainly I do admit that despite several steps which have been taken, a lot of efficiencies still need to come in. Various clearances, various regulatory processes, various lease and licensing procedures are there. So the process has to be made far more efficient, and certainly it is not a stage at which one can claim that we are at any optimal level. So I would honestly admit that particularly the ministry and us, DGH, we have an important role to play to see that we facilitate you far more than we ever did in the past. So that work, and you have a theme on that. It's a theme specifically focused on this particular area, and I can certainly assure you with all the sincerity at my command that at least in the immediate term, in the next few months, and definitely in the next within this year, we'll try to take some major steps in terms of making these processes much more efficient for you, so that you focus more on the business and the regulatory burden really passes on to us rather than to you. So that will be an area of endeavor, and please do participate in that particular session. Give us very clear way forward, and we already have some input from you, but we'll certainly take it as a very serious item, which we can take it forward together with you. And finally, the enabling policy frameworks we look up to. This is a very important element of any growth, because policies are essentially dynamic. They have to evolve and grow with the industry. It's not that there's a policy framework which is fixed and then you can have a growing industry. No, a growing industry, evolving industry also needs a growing and evolving policy framework, which is one of the key enablers to its growth and sustenance. So obviously it goes without saying, but since this has to be one of the important fulcrums of our growth stories among the 4-5 earlier flagged earlier. So this is clearly one of them, and you have a session for that, which is chaired by JS himself. So I'm sure, and they have some key participants, I'm sure it will throw up some useful suggestions for all of us for short, medium, and long terms. We'll certainly start working on them together with you. And this is, at the end, I wish to just say that this is not a kind of a one-off event. It is a kind of a, please take it as a curtain raiser, that this is a kind of a forum where it connects all of us together, but more important, it leaves a message for us to remain engaged. So we continue to follow up on the things we discuss here, so that and we see them eventually progress. And wherever bottlenecks are there, we can meet together. We can have a smaller, sessions on some of the things. We'll have, as I said, a monitoring mechanism But certainly this kind of event serves to basically bring that element of seriousness, that thinking element into the whole exercise. So once in a while, we must get together to think and see how what is the way forward. So that is the whole purpose, and to that, in that direction, I think the organizers really deserve to be commended. That at least they are bringing to the center stage a discourse which is really required, and which gives us that platform to have that serious engagement from where we can take it forward. So this is the basically curtain raiser for that. So I once again warmly welcome you, all of you, on behalf of the organizing committee, on behalf of the government, and on my personal behalf. I warmly welcome you to this event, the summit, and I really wish you a very fruitful and productive deliberation in the next 2 days. And with that, I wish this program a resounding success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insight. I'm sure we are all very, very inspired and encouraged to work towards the goal, to work towards Vision 2050. So thank you so much, sir. Shri Tarun Kapoor and Shri Amarnath are actually stuck due to unavoidable circumstances, but they will join at 10:30. So I request each one of you all to please be here. And while we wait for them, let us take a look at the video that was created for the summit. The video that talks about the future of oil and gas, a 2050 perspective.
India, the fifth largest economy with a GDP of 2.9 trillion US dollars, has emerged as one of the major players in this evolving global scenario. With the world's second largest population, India is fastest growing energy market in the world. Its share in global energy demand is set to more than double to 12% by 2050, where oil consumption is expected to peak at 6.3 million barrels per day in 2035, ultimately reducing back to current level of 5 million barrels per day by 2050. And gas consumption is expected to jump more than 5 times, from current 64 BCM in 2020 to 332 BCM in 2050 in a rapid transition scenario. Government of India is determined to increase share of natural gas in energy mix to 15% by 2030. With a robust infrastructure having world's 4th largest refining capacity, 4th largest LNG regasification capacity and 3rd largest CNG vehicle fleet, India is poised to lead the global energy demand as a prominent energy hub. Reducing import dependence of oil and gas through enhancing domestic production has been the cornerstone of recent revolutionary reforms. Key policy reforms such as hydrocarbon exploration and licensing policy, discovered small field policy, enhanced recovery policy and natural gas reforms underpinned by an ever-increasing demand has made India a lucrative investment destination for E&P business. HELP has brought about a paradigm shift in the way blocks are awarded by adopting open acreage licensing program, with investors having liberty to carve out blocks through round-the-year EOI submission window. OALP offers simple and lucid model contract, attractive fiscal and less regulatory burden. Government of India intends to substantially boost indigenous domestic production in the coming years through the 3 focus areas of existing resource, enhanced recovery and prospective resource. The key objective is to meet 50% of the country's demand through indigenous domestic production by 2050. The government also intends to enhance recovery factor of oil-producing fields from 26% to 40% and gas-producing fields from 41% to 70%. Government of India is determined to further enhance the conduciveness of policy and fiscal environment for leveraging the untapped potential of Indian basins. India's stupendous performance in World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Ranking 2020 is a testament to the government's commitment in undertaking progressive economic reforms. This has added to the confidence of global investor community, which is eyeing India as a bright spot on a global landscape.
It is India that on current trends will overtake China as the largest growth market for energy by the mid-2020s. That is according to BP's Energy Outlook. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi and the stewardship of Minister Pradhan, we have seen systematic moves to improve the ease of doing business and liberalize the energy sector.
On the back of strong economic reforms and conducive business environment, Government of India intends to increase acreage under reward to 1 million square kilometers by 2024 and 1.7 million square kilometers by 2030. This shall increase increased active participation from NOCs in increasing exploration activity in the country. There is a tremendous potential for investors to acquire unexplored acreages. To empower the potential investors in taking informed decisions, government introduced the National Data Repository, a single source to view and interpret countrywide geological data. Under National Seismic Program, approximately 45,300 line kilometer of 2D seismic data of onshore sedimentary areas have been acquired and is progressively being uploaded on NDR. NSP will also cover offshore areas as there is a huge untapped potential. In this gaining momentum of digitization, India is fast adopting IT-enabled processes. Transition to single window clearance mechanism and online contract management system is a great start towards achieving the objective of Digital India. The government continues to reform, perform and transform the sector by liberalizing environmental clearance for exploratory drilling, constituting an alternative dispute resolution mechanism and an empowered coordination committee for expediting clearances, digitizing and simplifying existing hydrocarbon contracts. Going forward, India's goal of becoming a $5 trillion economy by 2024 shall be deeply intertwined with sustainable energy growth. India has shown proactive leadership in its efforts to combat climate change. As India transitions towards a cleaner and sustainable future, E&P sector will have to reduce its carbon footprint substantially. Government of India envisions that all companies shall make their Scope 1 and 2 emissions net zero by 2050. The companies shall extensively employ emerging technologies like carbon capture, utilization and storage, or CCUS. Vision 2050 focuses on a powerful solutions-based dialogues to act as a platform to discuss issues and ideas like never before. The summit looks forward to discuss issues, roadblocks and challenges with key stakeholders. The India energy story is alive and growing, giving tremendous scope and opportunity for the country's exploration and production sector. Awareness towards different aspects of the E&P sector in relation to the sector's capacity to contribute more to the country's energy basket is the need of the hour.
Now we have Shri Amarnath, the Joint Secretary of Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, who has joined us. And sir, may I now request you to give an overview of the Indian E&P sector to everyone present here today.
Good morning to you all, and it's a pleasure to interact on this platform. And indeed, I personally feel that it's a great event is starting. Some time back, there was a discussion that let's think of a long-term vision for the oil and gas. And some of the people came up the idea that let's start thinking of 2050, because 2050 is becoming a benchmark year in various aspects. If you see in terms of climate change, people have started talking net zero by 2050. So instead of short-term vision, it has become a long-term vision, because the systems need to be transitioned over a period of time. So 2050 become a benchmark year, and we also thought that why not have a 2050 for upstream also. And I'm surprised that people have come together and organized this event. And the level of event which I am able to see and which I have been briefed, I must personally feel that it's a world-class event, and it has the potential to become the event in upstream. Now, COVID-19 is giving us opportunity to all to think innovatively, think in new terms. So it's an opportunity for all people connected with oil and gas in India, especially in upstream, to create an event which can become a benchmark event in the world. Now, long-term vision is always a vision, but that needs to be implemented. And implementation comes in milestones, medium term, short term. So all of us get connected in our short span of working life or particular assignments, that how do we work in short term also. So in short term also, we need to focus what is immediately at hand with us. And it is here that the policies which have been created by government implemented in last 5 to 6 years, those are transformational policies. And if I have to benchmark one policy which the E&P sector has undertaken and rolled out, is the open acreage license policy. Now, it may look like a one policy, but it's a whole ecosystem which has been implemented. It gives empowerment to the investors to choose the area where they would like to invest. So the choice lies with the investors. Decision-making process lies with the investor. The other connected thing with this is the national data repository, that the entire data of the country is at one place. And this is continuously being upgraded. And third component in this is the revenue sharing model. So these three components integratedly put together gives open acreage license policy a comprehensive vision and framework. Now we have moved one step further in that. In category 2 and 3 basins, not even revenue sharing is required with the government. It's only the royalty or taxes which are to be shared with the government. So the whole ecosystem of the policy which facilitates E&P sector is in place, has been implemented, rolled out, and it is in maturing stage now. Now, connected with this is another component which the government has continuously focused, and that is ease of doing business. Everything which is connected with conducting a business, how that should be made in an easy manner, is being implemented through various activities. All these things may not be apparent on a macro scale, but if you go one by one and then cumulatively you see it, you will find that a lot of change is taking place continuously. So ease of doing business is one of the hallmark of the E&P policies which the government has implemented. So combine these two things, ease of doing business as well as OALP and its connected ecosystem, puts E&P sector at center stage and facilitate for the investment. Now, we are not stopping here. We are going ahead. Now, one of the things which I would like to share with you is that national data repository is very extremely important, because for E&P sector, the data is the key thing. So government has already decided to convert national data repository into a company, a separate independent company, and use of modern technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, for the purpose of facilitating the data for the investors. Cloud computing. How do you put the data so that E&P sector can use it, even the smaller companies can use it? So that is, we have also already put in, a decision has been taken, and we are basically going through the formalities how to put this in place. And another idea which we are just contemplating is how do we facilitate, improve the clearances and approvals. We are just thinking of why not create a separate company for taking all the approvals. When a company enters, can we provide all the approvals and licenses to the company right in the beginning? So that job of the company becomes straight away go and start activities at the ground. So all these activities we are intensively working out how to make ease of doing business and approvals in a seamless manner so that investment takes place. So all these things are necessary in short term, and how do we make it happen is one of the key parameters which is being taken care by us. So this event should be a complementary event for all of us, the industry as well as government, that what are the bottlenecks, how do we work out, how do we innovate so that investment takes place, energy production takes place in the country, and we move towards a self-reliance and Atmanirbhar India. If you see recently, just few days back, I think just yesterday only, that IEA has come out that energy requirement of India is going to increase. So upstream sector will have to continuously play its role. Even in spite of energy transition, oil and gas in the country will remain. Even if our energy demand, the oil and gas demand remains stagnant, our import substitution will have to take place. So upstream sector will have to play its very, very vibrant and active role. And in next 30 years, it will remain a vibrant, and I wish this event becomes one of the benchmark events, not only in India, but in the world. So thank you very much for giving me opportunity to speak on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. It has indeed given us a great, great insight on the Indian E&P sector. So thank you so much, sir. And once again, welcome you to today's gathering. So Shri Tarun Kapoor will be joining us shortly in about the next 5 minutes. So I request everyone to be present, and we shall commence in the next 5 minutes. Thank you so much, Shri Tarun Kapoor, for joining in. Thank you for gracing this occasion with your presence. Well, Shri Tarun Kapoor is the Secretary of Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. He was also in the 1987 batch as an IS officer of the Himachal cadre. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. We really appreciate it. And now may I kindly ask you for the to address the crowd for the inaugural address.
The sector, all the experts in the sector or all the stakeholders in the sector are coming together for a discussion. Upstream is the area for us where we are focusing on increasing the production in the country in order to reduce the imports. This is a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat. The kind of impact this sector can have on the total foreign exchange outgo of the country is absolutely mind-boggling. If we are able to make good progress in this sector, then probably the entire balance of payments of India would change, and we would be in a situation where the surpluses would be enormous. So therefore, this is a sector we need to focus on. This is a sector where we need technology, we need companies, we need international companies, we need domestic companies to grow, we need technical inputs, financial inputs, and therefore I would say that the stakeholders in this who would make a difference are the developers, the companies who are into exploration and production, the companies uh, who do some services or outsource jobs, and then financial institutions or investors, and we need a lot of clearances. So state governments are also very important in this, and then the technical manpower, the experts, and of course the people whose land is also involved, or the communities who live close to the areas where this kind of work is going on. So as far as India is concerned, we've been trying to push up production for the last so many years, but what we've seen is that the production has stagnated. Last few years, production has stagnated. The discoveries have been few, major discoveries very few, and the targets which we had set for ourselves still are a little far. But on the other side, if we look at the possibilities, then what we see is that the possibilities are immense. Large areas are still unexplored. There was very little data available. Now surveys have been conducted, and we do have data for the onshore, offshore surveys are now on. So therefore, as far as data is concerned, we would be in a much better position, say 3-4 months from now, when some of this data gets processed and is made available to the developers. So we would probably be very comfortable as far as data is concerned, and then we keep moving ahead, getting more data on the offshore, and then moving from one level of data to another, which means that more concentrated data and better analysis, so that at least people know the whole area and they know where to concentrate. And with better information, better data, and better techniques for analysis or technology, international companies or large companies who are probably shying away at the moment may get interested in some of the larger blocks, particularly deep sea and entire offshore. So with this, plus more areas opening out, because we have plans to move into the left out basins. We on one side, we want that we should have larger area under exploration and then subsequently move into production. But we also want that those basins where we are already working, we must work to enhance production. So more acreages, newer areas, and better technology and techniques in the existing basins, so that in the short term we get more production from the existing basins, but in the long term we have more discoveries, and we try to cover most of the basins in the country. So in order to achieve this, a lot of reforms have already happened. We've moved from the nomination regime to the PSCs and then RSCs, and the process of reforms still continues. the developers who come into this area must get full freedom. They must get full freedom to explore. They must get full freedom to then produce and also retain the gains, because the risks taken are immense, and therefore whoever comes in has to make huge investments. So therefore, uh, the reward and the investment must go hand in hand. So that we are very clear about. But then from our side, the support which we want to provide is that the clearances should happen faster. Land, then environmental clearance, and various other clearances. So for that, the DGH as well as the ministry is absolutely prepared to intervene wherever required. Even private sector can approach us anytime, whenever they feel that they are stuck somewhere, and we would certainly intervene to help out and uh, uh, expedite any type of clearances which may be there. So from our side, we are working on some standard operating procedures and some timelines which should be normally adhered to from the day the contract is signed, and then the next stage is reached, which is the grant of PEL, and then subsequently moving to PML. And if someone is taking more time, it means that there is something wrong somewhere, and we have to intervene to help out. Uh, it has happened in the past that years and years have gone, and the awarded contracts have not moved ahead. So that situation we want to avoid. But then, in some cases, the developers may be stuck because they're not getting clearances. But then the government now is very firm and very clear that um, everyone, all the wings in the government have to support so that these kinds of clearances don't get stuck up. And large areas or areas where not much is happening should come in. The other aspect is getting private sector in a big way. While there is no intention that the government sector would withdraw from this or contract, but then the work involved or the area available is so huge that government sector can also continue, but then the private sector has a lot of space. And within the government sector also, the large oil companies are also involving private sector, which means that they are also willing to give out some blocks to the private sector or do joint ventures or work with the private sector and get that not only the expertise into the system, but also the risk-taking capabilities, which probably may be more with the private sector coming in. So we have set some targets for ourselves. There may also be more reforms required, clarifications required, and for example, very recently we've given marketing freedom for sale of gas, and we are in the process of giving marketing freedom also to some left out crude uh, blocks. So, but there may be certain other things also which may keep coming up, and therefore the developers are free to tell us in case they feel that something is missing somewhere and some more support is required. But then there's a target we have set for ourselves, and that target can be achieved only if all the stakeholders come forward and contribute and work with the government as a team, and therefore we must all be fully geared up. So these targets shouldn't remain targets just for the government. These are targets for the country, and we would then expect the targets to go down to all the major companies, and then all these organizations or companies or all the developers who are in this must then take these targets very seriously and work so that we achieve what we have set out to achieve. The the sector doesn't have too many large companies and doesn't even have too many medium-sized companies, but then all the organizations which are in this sector have to interact more often. So that's why this event is very good, and I must appreciate the organizers that they are bringing together various stakeholders. There is lots to learn from each other. There is lots to share and lots to collaborate. So we must all work together. My good wishes to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shri Tarun Kapoor, for your valuable words. This marks the beginning of the summit, that the very important summit that we have today. And now may I request everyone to please proceed to the very first session, the very first spotlight session that we have, where we will talk about the policies and regulations in the emerging business environment. And thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this. Let's move on to the first spotlight session.